Welcome to the Cluey Podcast, where we help conscious consumers like you get clueyed into the latest conscious tips, topics, and brands from impact-driven founders to experts and thought leaders on the topic at hand. I'm your host, Maryclaire Manard, founder and CEO of Cluey. Let's get clueyed in. Today's topic, circularity in personal care products. To discuss this, our guest today is Lindsey McCoy, co-founder and CEO of Plaine Products, which offers premium personal care products in aluminum bottles that can be returned, refilled, and reused. She was inspired to start Plaine Products after spending 10 years working on environmental education in the Bahamas, islands full of single-use plastic. All of the products are vegan, non-GMO, cruelty-free, biodegradable, color-safe, and free of parabens, sulfates, and toxins. Good for the body and the planet. Based in the US, Plaine Products is B Corp certified, a member of 1% for the Planet, and a top-rated brand on Cluey. Lindsey has a master's degree from the School of Public and Environmental Affairs from Indiana University. She's currently on the board of Plastic Ocean Project and a volunteer for Citizens Climate Lobby. Lindsey, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm not sure there's anything left to say. That's such a great bio. I think you covered everything. I think we're done.
Okay, good. Well, we'll keep this one short and sweet then with the first question. We talked a little bit about what inspired you in your time in the Bahamas in particular. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Why'd you choose personal care products of all the single-use plastic areas that you could get into for consumer goods?
That's a great question. So I was there doing environmental education, got to work with a lot of amazing scientists that were coming to the Bahamas, and we go out to these remote places and find plastic, and then you just see it on the beach, see it on the side of the road. And so when I heard in 2015 that there could be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050, I was like, I could see it. It sounded crazy, but I was like, oh, it is everywhere. And so I started, carrying the reusable water bottle, skipping the straw, carrying the reusable bag. But I kind of knew every time I threw away a plastic thing, I was like, I know right where it's going. So I was trying to figure out how to get rid of them, and I could not find a solution for all of those plastic bottles in the shower. At the time, the shampoo bars that were on the market didn't really work for my hair. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And this honestly betrays my age, but I was sort of inspired by how Netflix started, where you would get a DVD in the mail and watch it and then send it back and they'd send you another one. And I was like, why can't we just do that? Why can't somebody be, reusing these bottles? So that was the idea for it in May of 2015.
That's awesome. And what you're talking about with the Netflix model being as kind of as part of the inspiration is really, the topic at hand, which is circularity. And so a lot of times with a lot of industries, they're very linear. So natural resources are extracted to produce some sort of raw material, or then that's manufactured to produce a finished product, and that's shipped to the warehouse, to the retailer, to the consumer uses it, and then it's thrown away. So that's just one line from start to finish. Whereas with what you're doing, it's circular.
Yeah, it is that. And not only, I think we've been convinced at some point that convenience and disposability were the most important part, but there are definitely factors in play in that people are like, oh, we could just keep making more stuff. If we convince them just to throw it away, we just keep making more stuff. And really, it's a huge waste of resources. We're taking, as you said, all of these resources out of the ground, using them once, and then putting them in a landfill.
Right.
And while, recycling for plastic is great, unfortunately, the way plastics are made, they can only usually be recycled once or twice before they end up in a landfill.
And are they even recycled at all? In most cases.
And most of them are not. Because it's just complicated. There's just so many chemicals, so many different types of plastics involved. It's a really hard thing to do, especially cost effective, efficient. Plastic's so cheap. Fossil fuels are still subsidized, and plastics being a side product of that refining process, they can be very, very cheap.
Yeah.
So the beauty of metals is that, though, they can be recycled infinitely.
Yeah.
So, aluminum, stainless steel, it can just keep being used and used and used, and then recycled and used, so that circular model of it never needs to end up in a landfill.
Yep. Well, and that's what I think is really unique about Plaine Products. So, I actually recently ordered my first batch of Plaine Products shampoo and conditioner. I had also previously done some shampoo bars and conditioner bars. And while I certainly find use for those items in certain parts of my life, it's still, I needed like a bottle with a liquid shampoo and conditioner to just get the job done. So I wanted to try out Plaine Products. Recently ordered it. What I thought was really unique was that I had the opportunity, if I was placing a second order, to request a return label. So that way the box that the shampoo and conditioner bottles came in could be used to send back my old aluminum bottles, and I would just replace the little topper into my new bottles. That seems like a lot of work on your end. How do you do that? How do you manage all of that?
It's crazy because it is work, but it's not hard work. I mean, we just use an industrial dishwasher. It's not a lot of, different than what restaurants do. So, I mean, we do bring them in, we do have to process them, we soak them, we run them through the dishwasher, but we built that into the model. I mean, that was when we set everything up, we were intending to do that. So, it's honestly like a lot of sustainable things, not that hard, just a little bit more work on your part, and a little bit more work on our part.
So you're not recycling the aluminum bottles or sending them off somewhere else. You're reusing them in your own supply chain.
We are reusing them in our own supply chain. We will, if they get heavily dented, we will recycle them and feel very comfortable knowing that they will get reused, because aluminum, unlike plastic, is easily recyclable and actually in very high demand right now. But no, we take them back. We finish emptying them if there's any in there. We pre-wash them. We use a little bottle brush, and then we put them into an industrial bottle washer. And then we put them into a dryer, and then we stick them in a crate and send them back to get refilled.
And give me, I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, but what's, in terms of a statistic or a number of plastic bottles avoided, what would you say is the impact that you've seen, that tangible impact that Plaine Products has helped to achieve so far to date?
We are about 465,000 plastic bottles we have diverted. So
wow, 465,000.
465. Yeah, there's actually a counter at the top of the website. So
okay.
I didn't have to just put, I was like, what was it last time I was there? I think it's right around there. So yeah, I mean, we're creeping up on 500,000, certainly excited for it to be millions.
Well, congratulations on not only the growth, but on the incredible impact as well. And speaking of circularity, the circular model that you've already started to, exist in with, I believe it started with hair care first, but then it's expanded. What are some of the categories that you're most excited to see become more circular?
So, you asked at the beginning, why personal care? And, the answer at the time was because we couldn't find a solution for shampoo and conditioner. And then, so we've just continued to say, what else can't we find? So we moved body wash, body lotion. We have a very simple facial line, and we're just adding a deep conditioner treatment and a styling gel.
Nice.
So moving into more hair products, a hair repair we have, and we're looking at a sea salt spray. And I think we're sometimes bad capitalists, but we look for products that can work for as many people as possible and do as many things as possible. So instead of trying to sell you 20 different products for your bathroom counter, we have a face wash, a face toner, and a face moisturizer that can get the job done. And then a beauty oil that you can mix in if you need extra moisture. Our shampoo and conditioner, we just have two. And we sort of say, if you have hair like mine, that's a little straighter, a little finer, I leave the shampoo in for a few minutes when I shampoo, and the conditioner is in and out of my hair as quickly as I can get it in and out of my hair. Whereas my sister, will only shampoo every few days, and then she leaves the conditioner in for a few minutes. And sometimes she leaves it in completely. So our goal is you don't need to have 20 bottles in your shower for everyone in your life. We don't want to just stick a duck on the same formula and say, oh, it's for kids too. We just want you to have to buy one bottle, and maybe people use it a little bit differently, but they don't have to, you don't have to keep buying and buying and buying and buying,
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But, one thing that, that we always come across with Cluey, when users are looking for a particular product that meets a very specific need, is obviously personal care is a big category that consumers have a lot of strong preferences in. Is the goal with Plaine Products ever to potentially, maybe white label the aluminum, recycle and recircular component of what you do for, I don't know, other hair care brands who might not have access to that part of their supply chain?
It's interesting. When we were getting started, I really thought that would be part of the model, and we have had conversations with people. But no one has quite taken that leap yet. So I think there's interest. I think people are flirting with it. We're certainly happy to talk about it. We're certainly happy to help, where it makes sense, extend bottle washing capabilities, if for people also based around Ohio where we are, because we want to see more people doing it. I mean,
Right.
Not only does it help make the model work when there's more volume. I mean, everything benefits from economies of scale. So it would be amazing to have different people bottle washing and doing this in different parts of the country that we could trade infrastructure and share. So for that reason, we want to get people into it. But it's also, I just think, a better way to do things. And then the more places you see it and the more habitual it becomes, suddenly it doesn't seem so crazy,
Right.
if you're doing it in other parts of your life. It's just, now you see more and more people carrying reusable bags.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, that's awesome. And, if there is a great shampoo or hair care brand out there that's looking for a strategic partnership with Plaine Products, you heard it here first. Lindsey is open to it.
Yeah. We'd love to have more people using this model.
That's awesome. Well, earlier when I talked about Plaine Products in terms of all the amazing qualities, it wasn't just about the recyclability in the aluminum bottles, but so many other elements of the product itself in terms of what it doesn't have in it that many mainstream and status quo shampoo and conditioner brands do have in it. We like to talk about that quite a bit on Cluey, as well as a variety of other ways that a product can impact not just the planet, but also consumers, workers, suppliers. So I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think is an important statistic about the personal care industry that most consumers aren't aware of and that you think that they should know?
Well, two things, actually. I would say many, if you look at many shampoos, the first ingredient is water. And then there's a ton of ingredients that you can't read or pronounce. Things like sodium lauryl sulfate, which is actually a detergent. Is why some shampoo will sting your eyes, because it's literally a detergent to make it lather and make your hair feel clean when it's actually just stripping all of the oils out of your hair. So, there are endocrine disruptors. I mean, there's just a lot of things that people use because they're cheap, because they're convenient, and I had no idea. I mean, I considered myself a relatively educated consumer when I got into this, but then when I started doing reading, I guess I'm a bit naive. I wouldn't assume that people would put potentially dangerous stuff in personal care products. And maybe we're all learning together. I mean, I think there's a lot of research, and I think we're learning more every year about why some of these ingredients are not good ideas. But our main ingredient is aloe, and then everything else on the list is plant-based.
Okay.
So, when we were getting into it, we were like, well, why would we create this environmental package and then throw a bunch of chemicals in it? Again, because it washes down the drain. It not only creates problems on your body, it creates problems downstream. We're learning more and more about the chemicals that we have in the water that we're all contributing.
Right.
So, it is all plant-based. And, again, I would just encourage anybody to look at the label on the back of the products that they're using. And while once upon a time, I think you did have to sacrifice quality, to feel like you were doing good for the planet, I don't think that's the case anymore. There are a lot of really great plant-based products out there now that can compete.
Yeah. So I'm curious if the detergent ingredient in most shampoo and conditioners are what causes the lather effect. What's the ingredient in Plaine Products that causes the lather effect?
It is this witchcraft called, I'm going to say it wrong, Quinjilla saporina. I do not have a degree in chemistry. Happily, we have a manufacturer that works with us, and they, spend the time doing this. But there are natural products that, again, when you're using our product, you put some in, you have to add a little bit more water to it because there's not water in there. It's aloe-based to make it lather. But it definitely, you've tried it. It definitely lathers. You just have to use it a little bit differently than
it definitely lathers.
a mainstream product. And like I said, sometimes, leave it in a little bit longer to let it work its magic, but it can get the job done.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I can attest firsthand that it definitely does lather. And I've enjoyed using Plaine Products so far to date. I'll report back. I'm only about a month in. I haven't yet sent in my reusable bottles yet, but we'll be doing so soon. And we love to end our podcast with 2 glimmers of hope. So Lindsey, my first question for you is, what is a new innovation in the world of impact that you're really jazzed about right now?
Well, I guess I'm just really jazzed that people are even talking about circularity. When we got started with this 5 or 6 years ago, I think a lot of people thought we were crazy, and certainly nobody was, it was not a topic. Nobody even knew what circularity was. We were
Right.
talking about reuse. We were trying to figure out what the keywords were. The keywords didn't exist. How are people going to find us? How are we going to describe it? And so to have you want to talk about circularity is just really exciting. That we're even, and that people more and more are questioning disposability, questioning, using plastic, once and then throwing it away. Just that we're moving forward as a society, even looking and talking about those things. It's just very hopeful.
Totally. Well, moving forward, with innovations like industrial sized dishwashers to cleanse the bottles, but also using some old school tactics. Like back in the day, people would get their milk from the milkman and they would drop their bottles off outside their door. So some of this stuff is stuff we've already done as a society.
Before the 1950s, there was no disposability. Everything was reused. So it's not that we don't know how to do it. We've just been trained out of it.
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of making the conscious effort to put ourselves back into it and realizing that while these things are cheap and disposable right now, somebody's going to pay for them at some point. We're just leaving problems for next generations to deal with. So
right.
They're not hard problems to solve. It just takes making that choice.
Totally. And the more that people do it, the more that people make these simple switches in their lives, that cost effectiveness will come into play as well, because more and more brands will get involved, economies of scale will get reached, and we'll start transitioning towards convenience and cost effectiveness in a more sustainable way.
Look at solar power. 10 years ago, you couldn't afford it. Nobody was doing it. A few investments were made, and now it's the cheaper form of energy.
Very good point.
Yeah. So, I think that's hopefully where we're headed with all of these technologies.
Very good point. And our second glimmer of hope that we like to end on is, can you rapid fire name 3 other impact focused brands that you absolutely love to use in your daily life? And what is it that they make?
Yes. I'm a huge fan of Bite. They do the toothpaste bites, and then they also do refills. A deodorant brand called Nonico that has a deodorant in stainless steel, and then you just get an insert, so another sustainable packaging. And then Blue Land has been killing it in the cleaning industry with their reuse model. So all different parts of that consumer packaged goods, all using reuse.
That's awesome to hear. Well, great shout out to those brands who are also making a big impact. And it's always awesome to hear other founders, promote the work of others in the space, in the tangential spaces that they're in. So thank you for sharing your favorite brands. And thank you for coming on our podcast to get our followers clued in about the circular movement in the personal care space. And thank you to all of our listeners who tuned in for this episode of the Cluey Podcast. You can learn more about Plaine Products and their impacts at clueyconsumer.com and search for Plaine Products in the search bar, which is spelled Plaine, Plaine Products. You can also visit their site at plaineproducts.com. Lindsey, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you, Maryclaire. I truly do really appreciate you having us and having this conversation.
Of course, absolutely. It was great to have you. And as a disclaimer, Cluey has an affiliate relationship with Plaine Products. We only enter into affiliate relationships with brands who score a B- or higher on both their people impacts and planet impacts on our rating system. Our ratings are aggregated from the best-in-class third-party data sources, so Cluey cannot impact the ratings of these brands ourselves. If you'd like to learn more about Cluey, our top-rated brands, our ratings, and how we make money, you can find it all at clueyconsumer.com/about us. Come back next time to get clued in to the latest in the world of conscious consumerism.